Good morning, everyone. This is Valeen Sadi speaking, raising the prophetic voice. And today I want us to meditate a little bit on what do we have to leave behind in order to go forward. Sometimes we get stuck in situations, circumstances, and we are frustrated. We are frustrated because we want to move forward in life and we can't. We're stuck. So what do? Obviously, we go back to the Word to try and understand and use an example from the Word to learn from it. So my example was Abraham. God asked three things of Abraham, actually, if we look at it. He asked him to leave his country, his heritage, his culture behind. He asked him to leave his family and his friends, his whole, whatever he built there, his possessions, whatever, his houses, his that which was familiar to him, that he loved. He had to leave that behind, and he also had to leave his father's house. So it's three things that he had to leave behind in order to move forward. And the forwardness was all based on his relationship with God and what God promised. So there was nothing concrete. He didn't have internet to do research and have pictures of what Canaan looked like. He didn't have any of that. He only had his faith in what God told him. We can also look at Moses. When God sent Moses back to Pharaoh, after he had been 40 years for training in the desert, and he had to go back, he knew what he faced. He knew what the culture of the Egyptians was. He knew the power of the pharaohs. He knew the family because he was brought up in that family. He knew their power, their control, their witchcrafts and magics and all these things that they used. So he knew all of that. And yet God told him to go back and to deliver more than 1 million people, if we only count heads of the males, to go and deliver them, to take them out of it. So it's an extremely difficult move to make. It's extremely difficult. In Moses' case, he knew where he had to go, and then he had to lead these people into the unknown, also to Canaan. So both cases, they had to have the faith in God. In Abraham's case, his knowledge was based on what he had, and the unknown was his faith. In Moses' case, he had to confront the known, and he had to lead 1 million people to the unknown, which he also needed the faith for. So Moses' training was 40 years to build his faith and relationship with God in the wilderness before he was sent out to release these people. So obviously he had to go through all the tests of being released from Egypt, from being released from manipulation, from control, building a relationship with God, building trust in him. Abraham, we know that God saw something in Abraham, and he had also, in the time where he was in his father's house, in that culture, he was groomed by God. He was taught by God. And God focused on his relationship. But then one day, for both of them, they were called and they were sent. So both of these men had the frustration of what was going on in their circumstances. Both of them had the cry out to God, change things for me, change things for my future. I feel that I am more powerful than I am right now. I feel that there's something inside of me in bondage and I cannot break out of it. And that's the cry to God from a lot of people. So how do you get out? And the bottom line is, to be able to get out, you need to move forward. And to move forward, you have to leave some things behind. And that is where a lot of people decide, no, I'm not going to do it. That's where a lot of people decide to stay in the frustration, in the struggle. But if you decide to stay, then you will have to be satisfied with what you're living in. That's the choices that we have. You cannot be frustrated and pulling forward, but you're not willing to let go of what's behind. You have to make the decision. If you go, you cut the ties and you go. If you stay behind, you stay in that, you have to submit to that circumstances and the people and whatever is bothering you or whatever is frustrating you, you have to be satisfied with that. So today's question that I'm throwing out is, are you willing to let go of what is holding you back, of what is frustrating you, and start walking away from it towards your future with God in your hand?